Welcome to Permission to Be Human, the podcast. I'm your host, Mel Findlater, mother, coach, and curator of Permission to Be Human, the company and community. If you're a mom, know a mom, or want to be a mom, and you crave getting out in the world to make a difference, then you're in the right place. This is a space for moms like you to connect with yourself, your purpose, and your big, audacious dreams. Because when you feel your best, you can better you, your family, and a wider world. Let's do this. We have Cheryl Rickman with us today. Cheryl's an author and ghostwriter, having written 27 books, including works on positive psychology and more. She writes books to help people fret less and flourish more, and helps bring out the book in well-being experts, TV sports personalities, and business leaders who don't have the time to write their own manuscript. Now, I find the career of being an author and ghost author to be absolutely fascinating. So I had to have Cheryl come on to the show and tell us about her story, how raising a daughter whilst writing has worked for her, and her passion for positive psychology and nature. If you've listened to this podcast for long enough, you may realize that I believe in the power of nature. And so does Cheryl. So I'm really excited about her newest book, Tree Glee. And it's sitting on my bookshelf right now, ready for me to dig in. And I think I'll do it alongside my daughter, who also loves trees in all of their forms. So if writing a book has intrigued you, or the conversation around what it's like to follow and pursue that dream and so much more, then stick around. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi there.
It's so nice to have you on here and chatting again. We haven't spoken in, I don't even know, 6 years, probably.
It's going to be, time just goes so quickly. It's so crazy, but it's been a long time that we haven't touched base, and we've seen each other, what's going on in each other's worlds on social media and stuff, but not face to face, having an actual chat. So
Exactly.
it's good
So
to
I'm
see
really
you.
excited to do that and find out more about what you've been up to, because the tidbits that I've seen in between when we saw each other last and now, really, they're in sync with a lot of what we talk about on this podcast, as well as just my own life and
Hmm.
experiences and learnings within nature, especially in the last while. So I'm excited about that. You and I met at Camp Good Life Project, which I actually did an episode about that experience not that long ago, because it was my first time away from my daughter, actually,
Mm.
when I went to camp. So I lived in
Mhm.
England. We both did at the time. And we went, so that was my first, I would think I was away for like 9 days in the end or something in order to make
Yeah.
it all work, which in
Mhm.
New York, right? Like, it was pretty
Yeah.
crazy. Lights got all crazy for me, but yeah, it was such a beautiful experience. And I feel like anybody I would meet at an adult summer camp is the right kind of person to me. I love summer camps, so
Mm. Definitely. It
yeah.
was one of those things where the synergies of everyone really, it was just really powerful. But yeah, it's hard when the first time you ever go away from your child. I remember doing that for a writing project, and yeah, it was really, really difficult.
Yeah.
I didn't like
Really
the
difficult and also
class
so
until
needed, right? Like,
yeah.
for me, it was, I think she was about 2.5 at the time. And
Mm.
it was, when I think back, like, that was a big transition in our life at that point. I was actually pregnant, only like 2 months pregnant, 3 months pregnant at that point in time, I think, with my second, and nobody really knew about that. And I was kind of, yeah, navigating that world. We stopped breastfeeding by me leaving, and it was just, there
Mhm.
was like, that was a big transition in my life. So, but what a cool place to go to have those.
Yeah.
It
I
was,
mean, of all the places you could have gone, like a soft
yeah,
place to land with
yeah.
like-minded people. Like,
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about you. Who's Cheryl?
gosh, yeah, the biggest question.
Mhm.
That's the one. Fine. Oh, well, I guess, yeah. I mean, going to be 50 this year. So I'm kind of looking forward to that in terms of it feels like it's the afternoon of my friends. So I guess saying who I am would be sort of, yeah, explaining what I've done in the morning of my life. And I guess I'm somebody who from grew up in a small village called Fair Oak in southern England, only child of mum and dad. And yeah, just have always been very, I guess I'm a very hopeful, kind of optimistic, enthusiastic kind of, I guess, yeah, enthusiastic person would be how I describe myself. But what I do for a living is I am an author, sort of ghostwriter, which I've been doing for 2005, so for 18 years. And also positive psychology practitioner in terms of, like you, Mel, we both, I did Amelia's, we didn't have that, but I think it was the first cohort that was a sort of international cohort back in from, I believe it was. But yeah, so that's always inspired me. And I think who I am is very much, obviously, you're shaped by your experiences, aren't you? So I think I had a very positive, very optimistic mum, but she was physically disabled. She had MS, but she didn't let that sort of stop her in many ways. And she was a medical physics technician and really smart, beautiful woman, very encouraging, amazing mum. And then my dad, like amazing, lovely, really nice, kind guy who but he did struggle mentally. So he wasn't sort of, so maybe optimistic and sort of the part sort of had maybe a bit more of a victim mindset. So I guess I'm kind of more like my mum. I found positive psychology as a really interesting type of psychology. Of instead of focusing on what's wrong and getting people to neutral, looking at north of neutral, and very interested in the dynamic with my mum and dad and their differences. And yeah, I think just in terms of your question, who am I, and the podcast itself, and the topics of helping mums to build their dreams, I think having having my parents and then actually losing my mum when I was 17, so she was 43. So that's weird that I'm older than mum. But yeah, just having had that experience, I think has shaped me, because obviously, yeah, it's very difficult to be a mum without a mum, and obviously live from being a teenager to where you are now without her. But it's also made me realize how important life, every second of life is. And I knew I wanted to do something that in my life that would, in my working life, that would help people make the most of their lives. So whether that's through the books I write or workshops I've given, yeah, in some way, if I can help people the tools to help them make the most of life, that's kind of my main aim with the projects I take on. So yeah, there we go. A long answer to your question, but yeah, that is
It's a big question, so it's allowed to have a long answer, I figure, right?
Yeah.
It's always interesting. Everybody answers it very differently, and there's no right or wrong way. And I think you really touched on a few different parts of yourself there, right? There's the positive psychology aspect of it. There's the optimist view of the world. And there's that strong desire, like a lot of the listeners that we have here, to really, I think you said it as, help people make the most of life, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. And to have that from such a young age. I was just checking out your website briefly before we talked, and I think it said something like you knew from a young age what you wanted to do, and you knew you wanted to somewhere in that phrase, like, make a difference somehow. I think there were slightly
Mm,
different words, but and you wanted to write books. So, there's a few labels that maybe you missed off, not that that's who you are, but I'm curious if we just throw them out there to help people get a context of what life looks like for you, such as author. So I think you said
yeah.
ghostwriter, and I'm very interested to dig into that actually in a second,
Mm,
but author and mother, right?
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And all of the it's funny, I knew I wanted to write books ideally, but I think I was quite I did a very vague kind of media degree that I wasn't quite 100% sure was in writing. But yeah, writing books under my own name and also writing for other people, so who don't have the time or the capability or whatever it is to write their own books. But I started off my career doing business books and but wanted to make it easy to digest. So I sort of did the small business startup work, but which was very much kind of aimed at really was aimed at mums or um I noticed that business books were just very kind of dry, kind of cash flow, just it weren't very inspirational and practical to busy people. So it kind of I feel like I targeted a lot of my target audience has been women and sometimes a few mums as well. Written a book called You Are Enough, which is about this real getting rid of those shackles of should that the society gives us. So yeah, um, I've written quite a lot of books. I think it's 27 books, but that does include the ones I've written. And yeah, uh, I've got them on my bookshelf behind me, but yeah, try and kind of blend inspiration and information. So trying people's stories or my story or whatever, but it's often been about sort of resilience or flourishing. The first book I ever wrote, um, the first self-help book, should I say, that I ever wrote was called the Flourish Handbook, which I've recently it's been changed to You Can Flourish. I self-published that book, and then a publisher actually said, "Oh, well, we'd like to when we publish it," which it's a brilliant doer. And but we changed it, and I rewrote a lot of it with the knowledge because I wrote it before I did positive psychology, the qualifications. So I think it was in 2013. And yeah, then it got published a decade later. So that was nice to see that come full. Yeah, and obviously I think 2013. So I think my daughter she was born in 2008. Yeah, so she was 5, and that I think sometimes it's quite nice to look back at the books you've written or the things you've done, the projects you've worked on, and you remember what was going on in your life at those times. And what was very interesting to anybody who's interested in positive psychology was that I started to write the Flourish Handbook, which, yeah, now not so available, you can flourish. But it was the year, but I didn't know at the time because my dad was just flying and he was going around the world on cruise ship as a dance host and got diagnosed with mesothelioma, which is like a asbestos related cancer. And sort of as I was literally pulling it together and going to the last pages, but what would be interesting to your listeners, I think, is how much of what I'd written in the book about flourishing, how these pillars of well-being were helping me navigate what I was then going through. And so I was writing a chapter on supportive relationships being really important. And then my friends would rock up with a lasagna because they knew that I was driving up and down the motorway to visit my dad, and ended up going to a hospice. And it was very short from diagnosis to when he passed away. It was literally 3 weeks. It was just really kind of very quick.
Wow.
But all of these tools that I'd been writing about really helped me. So I think it was really interesting. I think the positive emotion that we speak about in positive psychology, and the need for gratitude and love and all these positive emotions, I feel like my mum had equipped me with all probably who I've become, and it really helped me navigate and bounce back quicker than perhaps I might have done had I not had those sort of that positivity. Yeah, so it was very interesting news that what I was writing about was actually, I then didn't expect to have to use, but I had to then use them in my own life to help me navigate that difficult time. And yeah, I guess that's what I want to help other people do with the project I work on now. And yeah, of course, mum, very important label. Me losing my mum, I think I just knew, yeah, one day I really wanted to be a mum. And I feel very grateful that I get to have a mother-daughter relationship. But the other way round, I think I do overcompensate sometimes because I do share a lot about my daughter and our escapades, and I kind of, yeah, we're really close with, she's 15, she's just about to start her GCSE tomorrow. In fact, her exams start. She's very excited because it means that she's that much closer to actually never having to go to school. So she's like, yes, the end is near. There's before she goes to college and stuff. But yeah, it's just I'm really wanted to cultivate a really close relationship, which I'm really grateful that I've been able to do with that. Um, and yeah, it's one of the best jobs in the world, and also hugely challenging sometimes. But yeah, it's a very important part of who I am, and yeah, very grateful that I get to be her mum.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think you really touched on there of like all these things that we learn these on our journey in being human, right? And the intentional learning that you've gone out and had around positive psychology, and even before you called it that, right? Some people listening might not
Mm.
even know what I'm talking what we're like, what is positive psychology, right? They might have no idea. And there's some simple answers to that, but the most simple being what I think you mentioned, the phrase going from neutral to up, essentially to flourishing.
Yeah. Mm.
But my point being, before you even took that qualification, your intention was to you wrote the book, right? Like, so it's
Mm.
obviously the topic that lights you up and that kind of intrigues you as you
Yeah.
go forth in life. And it's clear that that's come in different kind of points in your life as
Mm.
a support mechanism for you too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really good. I stopped doing it. It's also important that with permission to be human, to know when to say no or when something's not. What I did for 6 years, I did something called the Flourish weekend, where I think it was like 40 women, uh, mostly mums, in the end of January. I think everybody's so tired
Mhm.
because they've got through Christmas. Oh, at the end of, and then January is all like kind of New Year, all these good intentions, and then just getting to the end of it, and it's February, and so I thought, yeah, that's a really good time to do a little flourishy thing, and we'd go off to this hotel near a beach, maybe Bournemouth, South of England,
Mhm.
and just have some me time. And I think that's one of the most important parts of aside from nurturing and nourishing and encouraging your own child and doing what you would think makes a mother, self-care and having that me time. Wow, that's so important. I think if I hadn't, and where you are juggling all the plates and it's so hectic, and then also just a little aside, then when your child is a teenager and going through all kinds of hormonal stuff, is exactly the same time, usually roughly, depending, when you're also going through hormonal stuff, menopause, perimenopause, depending, kicks in. So it can be like really bad. So yeah, self-care. So having that time away, and we would do, a bit of art and a bit of, I would have treatments. So we'd have nap therapies and all of that. And then I would talk about what flourishing is and how to kind of create sort of sustainable well-being. And yeah, just to incorporate certain things into daily life that are doable and achievable, and make you feel good, but also then the knock-on effect on your family.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, obviously really important. That, yeah, then I've enjoyed sort of implementing the tools that I talk about, and practicing what I preach, I guess.
Yeah.
Very important.
That's brilliant. And I love that. I love that you've done these retreats essentially for women to go and take that space. So often we're like, what do you mean take space? Well, if you keep telling me that, and like, yes, there's everyday little ways we can take space, and those are super important and almost more important, but also the ability to be in community taking space is really, really important.
Yeah, and now I find, so for me, what that looks like is, it could be anything from going for a sound bar, or doing an activity that's really relaxing with a friend. So then we are going to have a catch up afterwards. So it's kind of like Tanner Strain, who's also on Good Life, went to Count Good Life, who talks about synergy tasking. So sort of going, right, well, I've got this, and this to do. I'm going to walk the dog, go to the post office, and I really see so and so. I haven't seen them for ages, and I need to get through coffee, and so, and then just going, right, well, let's do it all together. Or I'll go and get my friend, and we'll go and walk the dog together, and we'll go to the post office en route, and then we can have a good chat and catch up. So it's kind of like figuring out what you've got to do and how finding the synergy.
I love that because as mothers especially, we have so many little tasks that it's just like the mother load is real, right? And you're able to release some of that by actually doing some of the work, but you're getting the positive benefits of that community feeling, that relationship, that connection. And yeah, I love that. And another example of doing that, which I've never really given a name to, but I have a friend who mostly is a virtual friend. We haven't eventually met in person now, but we just have WhatsApp and we'll voice message to each other constantly, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then when we meet up, we always have a walk and talk, and we're always walking our dog, right? When she has a dog, because she's not always with it, but my dog, I'm like, yeah, we're going for a walk with the dog because I know I need to get that done today, and it feels so good. We're outside, all those things. But yeah, we've been trained and it's ingrained in our brain to feel good when we accomplish things. So why not like do it all together? And it's okay not to accomplish things when you're enjoying self-care,
Yeah.
but it's nice to have that combination. Those are, yeah.
Yeah, and also I love the, I was like very animated when you said about the WhatsApp voice notes, because I just find, so I've got two friends in Canada, well, a bunch of friends in Canada, but a couple that I catch up with via voice note. So I'll leave them a voice note, and then she'll listen, take notes, and reply to my voice note, and you feel really seen and heard because there's no interruption. You're listened to fully, Like the fact that my friend Eva makes notes, and I've got another friend Deborah Dean Kirby, we have a call, and we have a group call, and yeah, you just feel really, really seen and heard. So having that space, so that's a form of self-care and connection, but also nature, and that I found really, yeah, just we moved to the countryside 5 years ago, and so obviously, yeah, just having that much more space is great. But even in the city, just there's plenty of trees, and that's why I ended up writing a book called Treegly, which is all about how and why trees make us feel better. And it was really fascinating to uncover all the actual science and the evidence about how just just things like the essential oils that trees release, the phytoncides, they help boost your immune system when you breathe them in, so they make you physically feel better. But they can have sort of a similar impact to like positive emotion of opening your brain to so you can think clearer, so you can have more clarity and stuff. So going for a walk, I mean, I always feel better after going for a walk. If I've had an argument or I just am feeling a bit bleh, I'll just take myself off for a walk, and in nature I always I never feel worse. I always guarantee feel better. And usually I come up with some really good ideas, uh, whether it's book ideas or how I'm going to navigate something. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely an advocate for kind of nature therapy. Yeah,
Yeah,
as
me
a
as well.
self-care. Mm.
And that's amazing, and it's really interesting. Like the phrase that always comes to my mind is noticing nature. It's not so much about
Mhm.
whether we just get out in it; it's about what do we notice while we're out there, right? And when we moved back from the UK to Canada, so we were in the UK for 14 years, and then we moved back to Vancouver,
Mhm.
Island, which I hadn't been since. Well, I'd visited, but I hadn't lived here since university days, right? So it's been a while.
Yeah.
I didn't notice nature in university, other than the bunnies on
Mhm.
my university site. There was a lot of bunnies, and that's pretty much why I chose to go there. But also now I notice. I notice the trees because it is gorgeous here, right? And I'm just like, how did I not notice this before, right? But it is what we choose to notice, we then notice more, right?
Yeah.
I notice the trees. This year, I'm starting to notice. Someone pointed out to me last spring the maple flowers on a maple tree. I've never
Mhm.
noticed that a maple tree has maple flowers before, and you can actually eat them, and in like a certain phase of it. And this year, all I can see is maple flowers, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, "What
Yeah.
like, when are they gonna stop being flowers and turn into seed pods?" And, like, my brain is just going all curious, right?
Mm.
But I would have never maple trees were just maple trees before. They had the, like, fingered type leaves on them, and they're beautiful, and they change
Yeah.
color, but there's always this, like, next level of depth that our brain can start to notice once we let it,
Yeah.
and it's
And it's
important.
huge noticing having that curiosity. It does two things. It kind of, like you say, you notice it more of it appears, the good stuff, but it does, it makes you just more open and curious. And also gratitude. I find it's a route to gratitude, which we all know is a massively important part of way to flourish. And the more you are grateful for, the more you end up having to be grateful for, because and just things like the pacing, I have to do this. Oh, got to do this with I get to I get to take my child to school, which means I get to have that conversation I wouldn't have had, or instead of, oh, I've got to make them to school now. So yeah, so that, but within nature, when you notice the great, like the other day, we had, you all know because you lived in England for so long, rain
Mhm.
just constantly. Now, this is the first week that I can remember since the beginning of spring, definitely, where we've had sunshine for maybe 3 days. It's like, wow. okay, spring finally got the memo, but it's just been really heavy raining, but and it gets you down when it's grey, and I'm just like, come on, Nicole. But I was looking around and I was noticing how green everything is. It's so green and beautiful. So I just stopped because I was feeling a bit, and I'm done with all this really bad weather. And then I was like, oh, yeah, but it's green and that's a really lovely, lovely thing. So I sort of went and took some photos, made myself go out and take some photos of the greenness and just the splendor of nature. And I definitely think it helps. Being out in nature helps you notice it, makes you feel that sense of awe and gratitude. And a fellow friend, and another, they're all good life project people. Karen Ward did a thing called, a project called My Curious Eyes. I don't know if you've do part of that, but what that was just, she would set prompts, and it could be texture or color or whatever it was. And it gave you permission to just go out in the world, take some photographs on your phone or whatever that prompt was. And then you come back and you share one and you just post it on the screen and say a few words about it. But that made you notice things that you just wouldn't have noticed going about your day-to-day life. And it felt really good. So I think when often as mums, you're busy juggling 107 things, and so you might not notice some of these things. So I think it has to be intentional.
Yeah.
Go, right, I'm going to go out on this walk, and then you start looking around and you do notice things. And tuning into your senses, having that, what can I hear, what can I see, what can I smell and taste? Just to ground yourself in a moment, that's really important. And the good thing is that doesn't take any time. And I've just remembered Tannis frame again. One of her things was stop, look up and breathe, which literally takes 2 seconds to do. Wherever you are, you don't have to be outside. And just stopping, looking up and taking up and breathing. Sometimes, especially if you've got multiple children running around demanding your attention, even if you just have to run to the toilet and lock the door and look up and breathe. Yeah, that's so good. We called it, and then I think I helped her. The reason why I mentioned it as well is because I called it slub, because it was stop, look up, breathe, and that helped me remember. So doing some slubbing is very important.
I love that. And I think you tap onto something there that is really important for the type of people that likely listen to this podcast, which is we're talking about big, audacious dreams. So we tend to be quite ambitious people, right?
Yeah.
And the risk of that for myself, I'll just speak about myself here. The risk of that as the big dreamer, the futuristic, that's how my brain lives and thrives in that. It's also very possible, if I'm not careful, to get into strive mode with that, right?
Yeah.
So let's just use the simplest example. I'm always looking at properties. I love looking at real estate, right? And I'm like, I love where I live. It is a beautiful house. There's all these amazing things about it. And I want to live next to the ocean, basically. So I'm always looking for like the dream property, right? And the risk of that, if that's the big dream, is that I'm striving for that. I'm not noticing the amazing thing that's right outside my door, right? I was speaking to a friend the other day. She's like, yeah, but Mel, your house is my dream house. I'm like, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And I have to step back and be like, yes, go dream, do all of that. Please do. Like, it makes me feel really good. I get a lot of energy from dreaming about that space, and intentionally take the time to dream about the space I'm in and notice the trees or the amount of space I have, or be really grateful for the deck that's right beside me that I can step out and look at the hill over there, and just little things like that. And just while it's on my mind, what's coming up. So I've always struggled with the concept of gratitude, mostly because what comes into my mind is you should be grateful, right?
Right.
And that's been told to us so many times over life, right?
Mm.
And it's not particularly helpful because it's a shame-driven thing, right?
Yeah. I
And
should be grateful. Yeah.
not it, right? That's not it at all. So what's kind of helping me get out of that, because I still want to have practices of gratitude, is one of my character strengths, which you mentioned the word, is that space of awe. So that's where
Mm.
it's actually called something different, something about noticing beauty, but it's awe
Yeah.
essentially, right?
Mm.
And that gets you in a place of gratitude. So if you're struggling to be like, I'm really grateful for these 3 things today, it might be like,
Mm.
I noticed these 3 things today, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same thing in my
Yeah.
mind anyways, or at least
Yeah.
definitely a step towards. So that's just coming to my mind. So yeah, so the questions that I have about a million questions that we won't get to in this interview, but one of the main ones that was coming to my mind is around this concept of being an author. And these are totally like
Mm.
always selfish questions, because I look at some of the stuff that you have done and I'm like, oh, that's like, I want to run a retreat. I'm going to write a book one day. Not I want to, I'm going to write a book one day. I just don't know what it's going to be about yet. Right. So I'm really curious, like, with the author thing and knowing that that's what you wanted to do, like, what is it about writing that draws you in?
Yeah. I think it's because I'm a reader. So I, and to be honest, when my daughter was younger, I didn't have time to read. So I'm just getting back into reading. But I think I'm just fascinated with words and their power, and whether it's story, guidance, yeah, just how strong. And sometimes people, I have to say, I used to have this thing where I didn't say I was an author or ghost. If someone said, "What do you do for a living?" I would say I'm a writer, because it felt, I feel like author felt kind of, oh, I'm an author. It felt a bit show offy, so I didn't. I'm an author. And then someone said, "Dude, you're an author. You've written so many books. You're an author. I just say it. It's fine. You don't." So I do now, but yeah, I just think, yeah, it's the words, and also just think making making stuff happen. I think I've learned making stuff happen is one of my superpowers, I guess. Like if I'm like, right, I'm gonna do like the retreat thing, for example. My friend and I were just sat in a jacuzzi on a retreat, just me and her, just we've just gone to this bargain hotel that was offering these vouchers. And I thought, well, I needed to earn a little bit of kind of like a side hustle at the time. I was thinking, how can I earn just a little bit of extra money, just once a year, maybe. And then it came to me, well, I could do this here, but I could do a workshop as well. I could try and get it for a decent budget price, and then just add on, and I'm just going to trial it and just put it together and just see. And so I literally asked the hotel before we'd gone home, could you do this for 40 people? Have you got enough therapists? So, and they said, yes, we could, but, and you'd have to, there were a few sort of criteria or whatever. And then I priced it up and I thought, oh, I'm just going to do it. And then I did it and it worked. And then it worked the next time. And it's the same with writing. I think, uh, yeah, it's definitely easier now than when I started out to get a book published, because you don't have to go the publishing route. You can self-publish. There's now Amazon have a self-publishing platform. As long as you can, the words on the page, you can sort of hire a proofreader and get someone to design a cover, and uh, we just sort of put it all together and literally upload a book. You have to obviously get it typeset and not by somebody, but yeah, you can get it, upload it, and then it's available, and people can, it's sort of print on demand. But it's just having that time and I guess discipline and the way to write and figure out what you're going to write. And for me, one of the most fun parts is having the idea, which often comes from walking them, and then putting it together into chapters and figuring out, okay, what's that going to look like and how's that going to flow? And yeah, that's one of my favorite bits of it. And then the writing can be quite hard and challenging sometimes, but yeah, I still enjoy it. But I think I am now, by realizing I'm now thinking of maybe doing non-fiction for children, and either for children or for sort of more higher profile people who I think it can reach more people. Because I'm okay at writing books, but I'm terrible at promoting them. So I don't know how many people have read my own book, because I'll sort of do a little bit of promotion here and then I'll just it doesn't interest me that much to promote it. So then I'll move on to the next one and think, oh, that was a lot of work just for people to read. But no, I think I've done well, thanks to the publishers who promoted them. But yeah, I think with Audacious Dreams, it's having the dream and then just going out, yeah, I can do it. And I'm just taking those small acts of devotion each day, or just doing it. And then you're suddenly like, well, I've written a synopsis, or I've written this. And yeah.
That's brilliant. And that leads perfectly to the question of, what is your big audacious dream?
Well, yes, you talked about houses. I realised that in the afternoon of my life, it's funny, I've achieved a lot. I've written lots of books, and I've managed to raise my daughter to, she's 15 and she seems fairly well balanced and she's all right. So I kind of feel like that. So my big dream, I just really would like to have my own property, get our own home again, because we currently renting beautiful house cottage in the countryside. We did as an experiment. We were supposed to live here for a year, and there's sheep. I thought you might end up hearing just sheep bleating outside, but they quite down now. But we're surrounded by trees and sheep. It's all very lovely. But we were supposed to live here for a year, and it's been 5 years, which is lovely, but just want to have my own home again. And we throughout my sort of 20, but nearly 30-year relationship. Hold on, right. Anyway, however long we've been together for. We've rented, we've bought the house, then rented, and funnily enough, we sold our house, financed our combined dream, which was we launched a website called ilikemusic.com together, because he knew that I wanted to be like an editor on a music magazine, was my dream at the time. I was like, I'd love to be like the editor of Smash Hit, which was a teen music magazine. And if he wanted to do something he liked, we started I Like Music and ended up interviewing pop stars and stuff. It was crazy. It was just the beginning of the .com, where everything was going there and not working out, and we didn't earn hardly any money, and we still had to do other side hustles, but then ended up building it up and worked out really good, and we got to do that for a living for a bit. But yeah, to do that, we rented, and then we buy our own property, a little bungalow. We lived there for sort of 4 years. And then we kind of thought, oh, let's try the countryside that we've been renting, and it's lovely. And I'm glad. And we timed it really well, because it was before that we moved here in January 2019. And then obviously COVID was 2020. So in terms of space and not feeling too hemmed in, it works well for that. But yeah, I've always worked from home for as long as I can remember. So yeah, I just want to be a bit more of a homemaker, and sort of do that and children's books. One day I would like to write fiction, but I feel writing a novel, like a proper grown-up novel, I just think I'm just in awe of the novels I read, like historic fiction and stuff. And I'm kind of like, no, that feels too like I'm good at doing. Like I'm happy with doing things that are big and striving for big things. But yeah, it feels too big. So I think I could do an adventure book, or I could do a book, or a non-fiction book, or picture books for children. I want to start with non-fiction. I've written a non-fiction book for 3 lionesses, some English footballers, which work well. So much more non-fiction, but yeah. So big dream is write and become a children's author, really, and yeah, buy our own home again. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that, and the journey to get there. And that's the big dream, and I'm gonna argue and pull out that little fact that the big audacious dream is actually adult fiction. It's just, you know,
Yeah.
just kind of like still plain allowing your mind to just put that over here for a second because it's a little tricky.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe.
that.
Yeah.
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 But I'd love to do that. And in fact, it was my daughter. I do think, which is one thing to touch on to do with dreams. Sometimes I think our children can inspire our dreams or our projects. And so I wouldn't have written that book called 3 Lionesses,
Mm.
which is about how to build self-belief and find your team and embrace your lioness and all of that. I wouldn't, it's sort of a wellness book for children. I probably wouldn't have necessarily come up with that idea and stuff. But my daughter is so into football or soccer and for American audience. Yeah, from the age of 3 that I used to follow football, but I kind of had stopped following it. And now I'm all consumed by it because that's all she does. But yeah, that's meant I was definitely going to watch the Euros. And when I saw them won, that gave me the idea to write this book. And that started the process of trying to find the lionesses and reach out to agents and put the book together and make it happen. And the same as when me and her did a little website, which was just a project I ran for a little while, but it was with her influence, and it was called Climbing Trees Kids. And it was because she'd go down the aisle of the supermarket and go down the girls' aisle. And she's not girly, she's never been very girly. And so she would go down the boys' aisle and go, "Oh, a dinosaur top, I love that." Or Carl top, I love that. And why can't I wear that? And I said, "Well, you can wear it in Fran." He said, "Oh, boys get all the cool stuff. I want." So I ended up, we created this kind of range of clothing that was sort of dinosaurs and stuff, but it was kind of a bit more aimed at girls. So did that and wrote a book called Yes You Can that I did a Kickstarter with to raise money about educating children about stereotypes and how you've got a big spectrum and it's all fine. Like you could be really super girly and into all the stereotypical girly things or not, then that's fine, and vice versa. And just saying, just be yourself, be proud to be who you are. But she inspired that because she used to love Spider-Man and all of that sort of thing. And then it was as a result of that that I did this project. So sometimes I think as mums, we can get inspired, find inspiration from our children. That was kind of quite a literal inspiration, but yeah, in other ways. And see
Yeah.
where that takes us. Yeah.
Definitely. The inspiration comes from so many places. It might come from that walk you
Mm.
did. It might come from your kids. And I think what comes to my mind as you're speaking through that is that we have these different seasons in our life too that will
Mm.
inspire different things, right?
Yeah.
And when I'm challenging you to say that maybe the big audacious dream is the adult fiction book, it might be that that's like the late afternoon, dream,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, no,
Absolutely.
what I'm drawn to right
Absolutely.
now is this, right?
Yeah.
And okay, because that's the season in your life that you are, and it also sounds like an amazingly big audacious dream, to be honest.
Um,
And we have these different seasons, and like you say, you love reading, but in the first few years, that's very difficult to do as a mother to find the
yeah.
space and time and just like
Mhm.
mental capacity to do that. So yeah, seasons is coming to mind. Okay, we have to start wrapping up. So
Yeah.
I
I was
always finish. I always finish
just
with a couple of questions. One is for our listeners today who are mothers with big audacious dreams or ones who want to have them or kind of leaning into hoping they'll get one. What would you say to them? What's your top tip?
well, apart from the things I touched on, which is just it is just do it, just take action. Aside from that, I think we touched on it earlier, but it's an important part of it is to try and find this balance between growth and gratitude.
Mhm.
So you said, well, your house is actually a dream house for someone else, and so I think it's really important while we're trying to pursue these big audacious dreams with the growth, focus on the big goal, what you need to do, believe in yourself, I'll come up with a plan, what you need to do to grow, thrive, strive, and on the side of that, what are you grateful for now and never lose sight of what you've already got in the present moment. But I think just sort of paying attention to how you can balance the two, the growth and the gratitude. And I think I do touch on that in You Can Flourish about, yeah, expectations and gratitude and also growth and trying to find that balance. I think a lot of things come down to balance, so especially when you're going after the big dreams and being a mum.
Yeah.
You need some balance to do, which but it's 100% possible. And yeah. And you can, and in doing so, you do inspire. I think you inspire your children. So, yeah, which is great.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us. If people are intrigued by you, your story, your books, just anything about you and want to research some more or get in touch, where would they go?
Well, my main website is really just my name, so it's Cheryl Rickman. So it's www.CHERYLRICKMAN.co.uk. I'm on Instagram. I am Wellbeing Author. And then, of course, I've also got Treagley on Instagram, and there's a treagley.co.uk website as well. So, and also, if you type my name into Amazon, you'll see all the bunch of books. Not the ghostwritten ones, but the ones that I've written with my own name. So, yeah, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you, Mel, and reconnecting and talking about these interesting, indulging. I've been talking about myself, which feels funny, but yeah, simple, very great.
It is an
But also,
interesting
yeah,
one to talk about yourself, and I appreciate you coming on and giving that a go. Using the spoken words about yourself instead of the written today, and having done it will have been released just shortly before yours is, but someone interviewed me for the 1 year anniversary, and it's very strange talking about yourself. So I have a lot of gratitude towards every person that I invite on and says yes. So do thank you for showing up and indulging me in that and really sharing your story with the listeners, because I think what you're doing is, it could be that there's a listener out there also saying, "Oh, I wish I could be an author," or I I didn't even know a ghostwriter was a thing. Like, is that a real thing? I thought it was just in movies, right? Like, but
yeah,
you're giving them that little glimpse of a possibility there, and that's what it's all about. So, thank you.
yeah, embrace the possible.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
You know when you have that dream or that idea and hold it really tight and you don't really want to share it with anyone until you have it just right, until you are absolutely assured that it is exactly what you want it to be. But you also know deep down inside that it is unlikely to get perfect. It is unlikely to get to exactly where you want it to be unless you share it with others. It's when we share it with other people that we get the energy and the momentum. It is when we get feedback. It is when we start to iterate inside of our own minds. We need to get it out of our bodies and into the world in some sort of way. And talking to someone who will cheer you on is exactly the first step. Now, if you can't think of anybody in your life that you would love to share your dream with in this raw stage where you're not going to get the words right and you're worried that they're going to come back to you and be, yeah, but, or, ooh, what if? Don't share it with those people. If you can't think of who to share it with, then I want to be that person for you. Totally complimentary. I am launching the Dream Haven, and it is a simple message back and forth concept where you tell me your dream and I cheer you on and tell you exactly how amazing I think it is. I can be that safe space for you and your dreams to grow into whatever they're going to grow. It's totally complimentary. It remains your dream, not mine. And I would absolutely love and be honored by being that person who gets to hear it first. So head on over to permission-to-be-human.ca/the-dream-haven and let's get this going because your dream deserves to be out there in the world. It could be a project, it could be a business, it could be the change that you really want to see in the world. It could be an adventure that you really want to go on. You got this. Hear about it. Again, all you have to do is head on over to permission-to-be-human.ca/the-dream-haven and put your details in and you'll get a video personalized back from me inviting you to take our next step. That is it, folks. This has been Mel Findlater on Permission to Be Human, the podcast. And I am so glad that you have joined us here today and hope that you have taken away some tidbits that will help you go away, connect with your big, audacious dream, and make that massive impact in the world that you are dying for me. If you liked today's episode, please, please, please like it, share it. Think of one person. Think of one person that you think would also like it and send it on over to them. Let's get this out there and more moms feeling like themselves, inspired, dreaming big, and out there being them. Please do head on over to find me on Facebook with Permission to Be Human or Instagram, or you can even off me an email and say hello at permissiontobehumanalways@gmail.com. Say hello and let me know that you listened. What did you like about it? I would love to hear. He didn't like it? I don't really want to know. Just kidding. You can share that if you want. I would love to know, however, who you are. Let's connect. Let's find out what you want more of. I want to hear from you and I want to make it what would be useful to you. As always, remember that you have permission to dream big, permission to feel big, and permission to be you. You have complete and full permission to be human. Good deal. You do.